Yo guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. Today we're picking up our muscle group specific series, going straight for that most neglected of muscles, especially if we consider how important it actually is, how much it actually contributes to complete aesthetic development. I'm talking, of course, about the neck. Pencil neck no more. And of course, we talked many times about the pencil neck mindset. Pencil neckery, pencil neckdom, the disease of pencil necrosis. It's really mostly a disease of the mind, right? Just a mindset, a little bitch sort of mindset. But today we're talking about the cure for an actual, literal pencil neck, all right? Before we go on, I just want to say that I am going to make this into a proper studio. I know I've been saying that to you guys before, but it was been a little bit delayed. They kept drilling, having this project above me. I had no chance to test things out. But now I've ordered like soundproofing, some lights and that, and I'm gonna have to wait a bit, but somewhere in January we should have a better studio here. And as I'm sure you understand about me, I'm never gonna have this overly produced content, but just improving the visuals and audio quality. I think that would be good. So you can look forward to that later on. And before we start talking about the neck, I'll just say, please let me know, as always guys, what muscle group would you like to see next? I think so far that we've done the chest, the shoulders and the back. So we have the upper arm and the forearm left and the core, the abs and the lower body. So please guys, let me know what you'd like to see next. So next, you know, always when you talk about the neck, you think of the word next as N-E-C-K-S-T. Okay, but let's go on. So why train neck? Let's just answer that question, because people ask me often like why I do it, as if it's like I'm a bodybuilder, you know. Isn't it really, because some people treat it as if it's kind of strange to train the neck or something, but isn't it really more strange that so few people train the neck? Lots of people want to train and build muscle, but so few people train the neck, and there are a few muscles like this, like calves, forearms, neck, abs even. Like why, you know? So of course, one reason is just like we want to train it like any other muscle, right? And of course, I could just tell you that since I started training my neck, it feels a lot better. Like I feel solid, it's not only stronger, but just more flexible. You know, I'm sure I'll have use for this the one day I actually pick up a martial art, because it's gonna happen one day. But a big thing for our bodybuilding goals, and especially for us naturals, is that it will make us look bigger in civilian clothing. You know, I look quite big when I'm here. I am big for a natural, right? Right now I'm like 88 kilos, 177 centimeters for those that don't know. And just FYI, that's somewhere in the middle of the body fat range I move around in. I'm not at my leanest, but I'm not completely bulked up over the top like that, right? And so now standing here, I look quite big, and especially in the gym earlier, of course, when I'm in the middle of it, I have a pump, gym lighting, I'm gonna look huge. But put some regular clothes on me, and yeah, I'm gonna look bigger than most, and yeah, people are gonna see that I train, but so much of the actual look isn't really visible then, right? So there are some muscles, like that's why I like to improve my arms and forearms especially, but the neck also, it really makes you look bigger, even when you're in civilian clothing, right? Not in optimal condition, like aesthetic or visual conditions like that. And I want to talk about completing the yoke, right? So I think for the uncommon sense physique, which I guess would be my physique, I think my strong point, I know I have pretty chunky abs, that's one thing, but I think other than that, I think it's the yoke, right? Like this upper chest, this shoulder with a lot of emphasis on the mid delt, creating that roundness, and the traps, upper back, kind of creating this muscle collar almost. Really, the neck sits right in the middle of all those things. So to complete it, we need to bring that up. You know, it's kind of crazy. Side note, when you've been bodybuilding and you've been happy with your look many times, then you improve and you start, in my case, neck is something I started training later. Now I look back, I'm like, man, I had such a pencil neck, right? And I'd say this before I go on, it's low-hanging fruit. Like training neck from early on, it's like it's gonna make you look bigger sooner. Again, especially just moving around in civilian clothing, right? But don't confuse the traps, these guys, right, for the neck. Like obviously for the entire area, just like the upper chest and shoulders, the traps are gonna matter, but don't think that when you train your traps, you train your neck. You don't really, like possibly a small amount here, but you have to see the neck training as an addition to all this other thing. It's its own beast, right? So what we want to focus on when we train the neck is just extensions, so lifting your head, extending the last part of the spine like that, and flexions, so curling forward like that. In parentheses, I put rotations and lateral flexion, so obviously like this, and lateral flexing to the side, because it's something we could talk about. There's one more thing I know I didn't put here, I'm going to try to remember later, but it's really these front muscles that I don't even remember the name of now off the top of my head, but those are responsible for these kinds of movements too. And I made very good progress on this area just doing curls. So I think for our bodybuilding goals, we're not necessarily going to have to focus so much on the rotations and lateral flexions. Obviously, if you're like a fighter, probably a good idea to focus on that. But I've used it mostly for like warm-ups and potentially like further down the line when I've milked almost everything. I consider that most, but really, the extensions and flexions are gonna take you very far, okay? So the variations of extensions, you can of course just put the plate on the back of your head. I have not done that so much, but that's an option that would be available for a lot of people. I would probably take like a 30-degree bench, get out, so I'm here, somewhere on the bench, had a plate, gotta hold it like that. It's not gonna be the most comfy option, but it's something that works. This is where the neck harness is going to help you a lot. I actually put the equipment here. People ask me a lot, like, oh, what neck harness do you have? But honestly, guys, this is literally, when I was living in Greece, I just saw it in the one X-Fit, the one like big fitness brand they had this, I don't remember, what was it? 20, 25 euros or something. There's nothing special about it, okay? So, any neck harness that you could put on your head that fits your head well enough and you can hang weight from it. That's it really. But it's especially for the back of the neck, I find the neck harness to be of good use. My two favorite variations for this have been either to put a kettlebell. It's something compared to a plate. I just like the center of gravity, and it's further down. It feels more straight than a plate. It's like it's gonna rock back and forth, the center of gravity. It always felt a little awkward to me. So I definitely prefer a kettlebell. If you're gonna use a plate, it would be good if it was a plate that doesn't just have the circle in the middle, or on the side that you can hold or something, because that's gonna make it hang lower. But I really, really like the cable for this. So on a low cable, I would typically sit on a bench. And I say that for the extensions, you can stand or sit. But I found that I mostly like to sit and just lean forward like that. But on a low cable, so what I like about the kettlebell or weight is you get a better stretch at the bottom, but the cable is going to make the resistance curve more even. If I had to pick, I would pick the cable, but I'm going to tell you about programming and stuff, and you can always, have a variation. You do with a kettlebell with a weight on one day and with a cable on the other day, okay? For the flexions, here, especially as we started, like the best option is a plate. Just put a plate on your forehead, right? The only thing is it's not super comfy, even if it's not super heavy weight. So you want to, like some people even wear a little beanie, but honestly just putting something in between. Because I don't use, I'm going to explain why in a bit, I just put this on the other way around without the chain, just to get this as a sort of padding here that I would put the plate on. Yes, the neck harness, I put it here. Before I go on, the neck harness, I've just found that I cannot really find a way that I like with it for the front of the neck. With a cable, I tried many angles, it's just awkward, just feels not good. And I feel like more than like this, I feel no matter the angle, I always feel like a more pushback like that. Of course, it's a kind of motion for a neck also, but I just don't like it, okay? Potentially, if you can get into position with a weight, maybe that could be better, but I have not found a good setup for that either. And it's also quite awkward, like even trying to do that, And I'm gonna tell you, I feel like you don't need that at all for the front. So the plates, they're gonna work really well for a long time. Like I started, I don't even remember, did I have 15 kilos, 12 and a half kilos or something, just 3 little 5s, And you could just keep adding on, 1.25s or 2.5s, or if it's pound plates you have. But at a point, like I remember when I tried to hold on to a 25 kilo and a 10 kilo plate, it started to feel very awkward, right? And I was thinking, like, what's the best option here? What I found is a C-bar or an easy bar. Like, which one is which, really? You see, guys, quite jacked guy over here, I barely know the difference between C-bar and easy bar. But it's kind of, either way, both of them go a bit like this, right? So it's kind of perfect. You can put the bar here and have it kind of bend down like this. Again, it's just that you want to wear something for the padding here. But what happens, of course the bar you can load up on the sides, you're not going to have to hold all these plates. But what happens though is that as you start to go heavier, because when you start out and lying on a bench, you're probably going to be quite isolated in your form like this. But the heavier and heavier weight you get, there's going to be a lot of weight just pulling you back and even holding its position, So I have to dig my heels into the bench or ground, which this is not a problem necessarily, but just expect that it's going to become more and more of a compound exercise if you choose to load it this way. Like, I guess it's the core, obviously, that contributes. But I guess even because when I hold it here, I don't feel like I'm pulling it like that at all. But maybe you have to use a little bit of lats and serratus even. It's fine though, I've clearly kept growing my neck since I did that, but just realized that it becomes more of a compound. And so, now I'm going to shill something a little bit because I was actually sent this for free. This Kensui Easy Helm, the brand Kensui. They have lots of these sort of smart weighted body weight exercise options. Not only, but that's a lot of what they do. And so what I liked when I saw this, they sent it to me for free if I promote it, right? Is the point. I don't have any discount code or anything. I say that no one is going to need this when they start out, right? It's just for the really neck training enjoyer. Like, I got up to using 70 kilos in total on a C-bar doing this, and it started to become such a pain just getting into position, and that. And when I saw this, I just saw the opportunity to do it again in a way more isolated fashion and be able to progressively overload with the weights on the sides, right? And so it's crazy, the difference. I started out doing like 7.5 kilos in total on this. Now I'm up to 10. I hit like 16 reps the last time. So now I'm going to try 12.5 next time. But so this one, obviously I'm going to experiment a bit more with like having more weight on one side at some point for the side, the unilateral stuff or rotations and lateral flexions. But for now, what I'm most excited about this one is the opportunity to isolate and again progressively overload the front. And now, I'll just be honest, all this kind of equipment, it's like, training is not supposed to be comfortable, right? Like, this might feel a little awkward when you start out, but I've used it for some sessions now, and I think it feels good enough, it sits there good enough, it stays in position good enough. It's just like this one pulling a little bit on you, it is what it is when you train. And I say that you can go check it out on Kensui's website. But like I said, no one needs this to start. This would be an advanced option later on. Okay, so let's talk about sets, reps, progression, and programming. I found that training the neck, like each front and back, twice per week is enough. You don't need to do all that much. You have to be consistent with it. That's all, really. When I started, speaking about being a pencil neck and that, like, some people are way too worried about injuries and stuff, and it feels more like an excuse to not push yourself hard. The neck, really, why would it be different than any other muscle or joint, But like, why would it be more prone to injury or something? It isn't really. But of course, like, getting a neck injury is not something we want. So what I did when I started was just that I consciously chose to work in a slightly higher rep range just to not risk, straining, so putting too much weight. And when I felt like I built quite a solid foundation, that's when I started to lower the reps a little bit. But to me, it still makes sense to keep the reps like a little bit on the higher end, closer to 10 than 5, for instance. But so I started out doing 3 sets, front and back, in the same session. And I kept the rep range like maybe 12 to 20 reps to begin with, higher. Then at some point when I kept progressing in reps, double progression style, adding weight, I started going for more of a 10 to 15 rep range. And sometimes now maybe I get a little low, like 7, 8 reps like for instance, cable extensions. I like to, they work quite well, slightly lower, okay? But yeah, the progression, I think a double progression works so well on this, especially since we're gonna be working a little, slightly higher rep range most of the time. Just adding reps within a rep range, like, 12 to 20 or 10 to 15 before we move on up in weight, right? Then programming. So the neck, it's one of these muscles where it's not like obvious where to put in your program, but it's so easy to get in at almost any point, So I'll tell you, like again, twice per week each, 3 sets front and back. That's good enough. But so the way I've done it is on my, I follow a split that's an upper lower push pull legs with 2 rest days that are more like misc days when I do these kinds of things that aren't as obvious where to put in the program, little just smaller stuff, right? And so neck has been one of the muscle groups I train on a day like that, but not everyone will have that in the program. So something you could do if you push-pull legs, I would just throw in, when you do like a curl or something at the end of a pull workout or isolation, like a rear delt, reverse fly or something, very easy to superset with neck extension. And it makes sense, right? Because it's the posterior, you're working the back pulling muscles, working also that part of the neck. And I would put the flexions, the neck curls, probably on a push day, right? Again, it's so easy to superset some plated neck curls with whatever tricep or exercise, just extensions like that. Not a huge fan of supersets other than to be like convenient with programming. Isolation exercises that don't really, even if I take a triceps push down to failure, it's not really gonna affect my neck curl. So for that purpose, I like supersets. But look, you could put it on a leg day too, of course, like why not, And the neck is even, if you have a neck harness and little weights at home, it's even something you could just throw in like whenever, because it's not going to take a long time. Actually, on one of these misc days right now that I mentioned, on one of the days I'll do a bit more other things. But on Sundays, currently, that's like all I have, the neck stuff. And it takes me like 20 minutes max to just get that in, Last little thing I'll share about that is that for me, I found, I did my 3 sets pretty much to failure or 0 reps in reserve. Sometimes with some kind of intensity technique, dropping the weight on a curl and going on, or maybe assisting in the concentric and then controlling the eccentric on the last set. For the neck extensions, but I found actually that for me, doing it sort of Mike Mentzer style, just working up to 1 top set where I kind of go beyond failure with some kind of assistance like that, that's turned out to be enough a lot of the time for me to progress. So it depends a little bit on how much time I have, and so sometimes I get a bit more volume in, but my kind of minimum thing, I want to get my top set to be on failure in at least every week, and I've been able to add rep double progression style that way. The last thing I wanted to put in is for extensions especially. We can definitely talk a bit more. This is something I mostly just played with. I haven't programmed it too much, but more of like isometric work. So I started, I actually did it for a while. When I stalled a bit on my neck extensions with kettlebell, I started using more weight and doing a sort of deadlift. Like I would actually stand up like this with more weight. And it's surprising actually how much that works the neck to just resisting, flexing like that. So that's something that you could play with apart from moving in a range of motion like this. You could do some kind of a static like deadlifting work for the neck like that. But that's it, guys. Really, honestly, for you guys that are getting into it, if you are a client of mine and we haven't put neck in your program and you're interested, just let me know, because like I said, it's very easy to just get in somewhere, but I do definitely have some of my guys doing the neck already. But yeah, especially the front, guys. If you're a beginner, just start training neck curls now, and you're gonna be happy that you did. It's actually quite cool to be able to bring that. That's definitely something I would go back and tell Theo. It's like, bro, it's like not many minutes extra per week you have to put, and it's gonna contribute a lot to your complete aesthetic development. So yes, guys, that's it. Please like and comment. If you train neck, tell us what you do. If you do something I didn't mention, always interested to hear your thoughts and about your process. I do holistic bodybuilding coaching, getting jacked and stacked mentally, physically, spiritually, working on ourselves, body, mind, and soul, becoming that individual that just looks jacked because they are a jacked person. It's not just the body, it's the person in the body. So if you are interested, you can send me a DM on Instagram or email me. It's in the description below. I'll get back to you, tell you about my different programs. Can pick up my training book, everything philosophy, mindset, and just training related you need in order to become a self-reliant, jacked and stacked individual. And please subscribe for more content about fitness, fast losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys, not a Pensivic mindset. Peace.